Like, subscribe, comment. Let us start this story. I still remember the smell of that town. Pine trees, fresh-cut grass, and the faint sweetness of peaches from the farmer's market. My sister Emily and I spent every summer at our grandmother's house in Virginia, but that year felt different from the very beginning. Emily and I were nothing alike. I was 20, cautious, and always had a notebook full of lists and plans. She was 18, spontaneous, and lived as though the world were meant to be danced through. People said we were close, but what they didn't know was that Emily had always been the one to pull me out of my shell. It was the first evening after we arrived when we met him. Daniel. He had just moved in next door to help his uncle with renovations. He was tall, lean, with sun-browned skin and dark hair that fell into his eyes when he laughed. And that laugh, it wasn't loud, but it carried a warmth that made you feel seen. "Need a hand with those boxes?" he asked when he saw us unloading the trunk. Emily nudged me, whispering, "He's cute." I rolled my eyes but couldn't deny it. He was. From then on, Daniel was everywhere. At the diner where we got milkshakes, on the porch with his sketchbook, by the river skipping stones. He was studying architecture and had a habit of pointing out buildings and explaining how their design reflected people's needs. I loved listening to him. It felt like he looked at the world with a kind of order I admired. Emily, meanwhile, loved how he noticed beauty in small, fleeting things. The shape of clouds, the sound of crickets at night. Somewhere between fairs, ice cream cones, and summer thunderstorms, I realized I was falling for him. What I didn't expect was that Emily was too. At first, it was subtle. Emily dressed a little brighter when she knew we'd see him. I caught myself rehearsing what I'd say before walking over to his porch. We didn't talk about it, but the silence between us grew thicker every day. One evening, the three of us sat on the porch watching fireflies. Daniel leaned back in his chair, sketchbook balanced on his knee. Emily told a story about sneaking out of the house to climb the water tower, and Daniel laughed so hard he dropped his pencil. I laughed too, but it hurt. Because I could see how much he admired her freedom, her courage to live without rules. Later that night, Emily confronted me. "You like him," she said flatly. I froze. "So do you." Her eyes narrowed. "Then what happens now?" I didn't answer, because I didn't know. The days after that were painful. We stopped sharing inside jokes. Breakfast at Grandma's kitchen table was filled with silence instead of chatter. And Daniel, oblivious, just kept showing up with that easy smile, not knowing he was splitting us apart. Until one night, when it finally happened. Emily told him. I wasn't there, but I saw them from a distance by the river. She was crying, and he reached out, as if to comfort her, but shook his head. Later she told me his words. "You're amazing, Emily. But I can't. My heart's already with someone else." That someone was me. And suddenly, I wished it hadn't been. Emily barely spoke to me after that. She stayed in her room, painted at night, slammed doors when I knocked. I tried to explain, to apologize, but what could I say? I hadn't asked him to choose me, but he had, and the choice was destroying us. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. Every time Daniel smiled at me, I felt sick, because it came at the cost of the one person I loved most in this world. It was a stormy night when everything cracked open. Rain pounded on the roof. Thunder shook the windows. I found Emily sitting on the porch steps, drenched, her arms wrapped around herself. "Emily," I whispered. She turned, her face streaked with tears. "I hated you," she admitted, her voice breaking. "But I hated myself more. Because you're my sister, my best friend. And I was ready to lose you over a boy." Something inside me shattered. I knelt beside her, hugging her so tightly she trembled against me. "I can't lose you," I whispered. "Not for him. Not for anyone." We cried together for a long time, and the storm outside seemed to soften as if the sky itself was exhaling. The next morning, we told Daniel everything. He listened quietly, his expression serious. Finally, he said, "You two have something I'll never be part of." Don't let me ruin that. I was just a chapter in your story. He left for college a week later. We promised to stay in touch, but by autumn the texts had stopped. And strangely, I wasn't heartbroken. Neither of us was. Because we had each other again. Emily and I found our rhythm back. Late night talks, shared secrets, laughter that filled Grandma's kitchen once more. And whenever we walked through that little town, I caught myself smiling. That summer taught me something no romance ever could. Love can come and go, but family, the real kind, stays. And that was the happiest ending I could have asked for.